So I have a question. You mentioned that you got banned from Twitter for a stupid reason, obviously,
Mhm.
and we have talked about how Scott Cawthon had to retire because he got death threats and stuff. So I want to ask, what do you think social media has done to gaming? Like, what kind of influence do you think it has had on gaming?
Oh, I don't know if I'd be able to pin down exactly what, but I think it's probably negative. So just as an
Yeah.
example, I got banned for saying, okay, so there's a quote in Game of Thrones. I don't know how to say it. Valar Morghulis, all men must die. It's kind of about
Mm.
destiny and the event, like the inevitability of where you're going. So if you said that, you got permabanned. So I said it, and I was like, oh, it's stupid. I bet I hear Twitter's out here banning people for saying Game of Thrones quotes, all men must die. And then I replied to somebody, they were like, oh, you have to say it as a reply. And I was like, okay, all men must die. And then I got permabanned, and I'm still permabanned. So, and I appealed, and they rejected it. So, and I feel healthier though now after the fact. I do.
Yeah.
Like I have more time, and a lot of the discourse. Okay, so sometimes I would read a Twitter thread and I would straight up make a video about it. I'd be like, "Oh, this is a stupid opinion from someone. Let me roast them." Well, now I'm not going to do that because I'm not going to be reading the stupid threads. So I'm going to be covering less things that are frivolous and trivial and stupid, and hopefully covering more things that matter, more things that have impact. So, whatever the effect of social media is on gaming or society in general, it's probably bad. I mean, the guy that invented the notification button on Twitter even comes out and says he regrets doing it. He regrets it. He says it was a bad idea. He says it's bad what it does, the addictive nature of it, and all that stuff. So I can imagine that for gaming, it's just negative effects, whatever they are.
Yeah. I even like on that note with the whole old man must die thing. I even pointed at him. You kind of were looking for fucking conflict there, dude.
Yeah, I was. I realized that after. I was like, okay, I can't really whine and complain too much because I caused this. Now, yeah, I think it's a stupid policy. And yeah, I think if they're always saying context, then look at the context. I didn't deserve to be banned, but whatever. I asked for it and it happened. It's not that bad. And there are some benefit. Okay, I shouldn't say it's universally negative. There are some benefits to social media in the sense that you can like get information faster, or you can reach a wider audience, or like there's ways in gaming. Like let's say you're organizing a tournament on social media. You're going to be able to reach more people than ever before, and you're going to be able to have a better tournament because of that. So there are good applications for it in gaming. It's just the basic everyday like trajectory, I think probably skews negative though, because yeah.
I want to get to this fucking subject because you know exactly how much I love. Yeah, I love this subject like a lot, especially because I've been discussing this shit with you like for the longest time.
Yeah.
What do you think about the esports?
Esports, oh my god. Well, okay, esports could be so great. That's the thing. Like it really
Yeah.
could be, but it isn't. It just so isn't. And the most disheartening thing is that a lot of the most powerful people in esports are extremely young, very very naive, and they have a fuckload of money that they don't know what to do with. And they're just like trying to live out their CEO high roller dream. And because they're doing that and they're inexperienced and they don't have the right backing, their contracts are falling apart. Tournaments are a joke. Like the social scene at some of these conventions is awful. Just look at Smash. That's a disaster. There's just so many things about esports as it grows that are just unhealthy.
Well, I didn't know that you actually kept up with Smash as a like the development of the Smash.
Well, I won't be anymore because I'm banned on Twitter. But I followed a few people that were in the Smash community and would like really heavily talk about it, like really in depth. And yeah, it was so cool to watch a community that's like been basically ignored by Nintendo. Like Nintendo does not support them at all, but they create their own scene and they have their own competitive environment, and it's great in one sense. But then if you look at it really from the top down at all levels, there's all these different pockets of it that are like abusive and predatory and like financially irresponsible and like all sorts of shit. So esports is cool and it has so much potential, but there's too many bad actors right now, I think, for it to really flourish.
And then on the higher levels of that same scene, you essentially see a lot of fucking people trying to take each other down, like with what happened with Zero and other relevant characters in the Smash community, who just now, after a fucking dumbass from you to call technicals, decided to just waste 5 minutes doing actual research on the subject and find out that the people that threw allegations against them were actually pathological liars.
Yep.
And essentially the whole thing where people cancel people like Nairo and Zero and all these things were essentially all baseless accusations.
A lot of them,
And now basically everybody just thinks we all just wasted our fucking time with this. Like,
I mean, there were some that weren't a waste, though. I mean, as far as I know, there were a couple situations that I don't know how public they were, but they were fairly public, but they were really bad, like super bad, to the point where like the law is involved.
Yeah, like with the whole Joy Cuellar situation.
I mean,
that's confirmed fucking true.
Yeah, there's a number of them, and so like the wave of cancellations kind of went overboard, and it wasn't just Smash that hit at the same time as I think the Destiny ones were hitting. There was in a bunch of communities there was stuff going on, but yeah, esports is a double-edged sword because on the one hand you can have money flow into gaming and especially reach people that are passionate about games and highly talented, which is not a bad thing at all. But on the other, then you have the social atmosphere, and you kind of have like okay, in the Fortnite esports organization community, there was a long time where these groups were operating funded by this thing called internal operations. Now, what internal operations is they would bring in talented kids, and they wouldn't pay the talented kids. They'd say, hey, talented kid, you should pay us to be a part of our group. So then a whole bunch of kids would pay them like $200 a month. And that was how they funded the org. Yeah, it was like really fucked, and it was really stupid. And I don't know why anyone fell for it, but that's how it worked, because the social atmosphere was like, I have to be part of this cool team. And if I'm not part of this cool team, then I'm not a good player and I'm not deserving of getting noticed. But to be part of the cool team, you had to pay the cool team $200 a month because otherwise they wouldn't let you in. It was yeah, it was really screwy. It was really screwy. And none of them were registered as a business. So they were like hiring people and dispensing money sometimes and all this stuff. And they had huge amounts of money flowing through their accounts, right? Through some personal individual's account, from kids paying them, but none of it was under a company. The parents didn't know. There was no contracts. There was no, it was just so ridiculous.
Wow.
So that kind of stuff hurts esports, and that's the seedy underbelly, if you will. Because then there's the good part, right? You have League of Legends tournaments, SKT T1 team out there, winning millions of dollars, Epic Games with their actual World Cup tournament. Like, there's real parts of esports that are amazing, but then there's so many other things that are kind of infecting it, that it's got a long ways to go.
Yeah. Unfortunately, I am one of those people that had to fucking help Upper Echelon cover one of those shady organizations called Regal Reserve.
Oh God, Regal. I mean, they're gone now, right? So kind of, I guess, mission accomplished. And people keep telling me, so the guy that ran Regal Reserve, for anyone that doesn't know, there was this team called Regal Reserve, and the CEO and owner, working with his dad, basically was like, hey, we have this mansion, and it's a prize, and you can come live with us in the mansion if you win. The mansion didn't exist. He just took pictures off of Google. So he had a prize that didn't exist, which he was using to get people to promote his team on social media. And then a whole bunch of other stuff came out, like he wasn't paying his artists properly. He wasn't dispersing things that he said he was going to disperse. There was all sorts of crap that happened. So the team's gone, but people keep saying like, oh, well, he's off doing a new thing. And I'm like, yeah, well, he has every right to live his life and continue living his life. It's just that group, like their social media was a hacked Twitter account from some, I think, Filipino celebrity. So somebody hacked a Filipino celebrity's Twitter and then sold it to them. And that's what they were using. And I was like, you can't build an esports organization on that framework. You can't get partnerships with Razer and Logitech and whatever on that framework. It's not viable and it's undeserving. So that's where my pretty intense opinions on esports comes from.
Yeah. That was a story that I helped cover as well, and I was like, and that was before I started doing a whole lot of fucking covering for a lot of fucking people about the underbellies, because for some reason I always end up swept up in this kind of stories. But yeah, like I was basically investigating the whole Regal Reserve thing alongside Upper Echelon. Found out a few facts on my own, namely, most of them were already told by Upper Echelon. But it's hilarious that the underbelly just acts way different than what the community at large, the whole esports community wants you to believe.
Oh yeah.
And the problem is that this happens at the bottom parts of the team, where people are most likely to be vulnerable because everybody wants to start to play video games for a living, right?
Yeah, and
And
that's the pipeline that you get involved in. There's tons of stuff. Like the most recent thing I was looking at is there's this practice now, which apparently is really normal, of selling social media accounts. But what they do is they sell you the account, but they never give you what's called apparently the OG email. So once they sell you the account, they just take it back after they have your money because they have the original email. So unless you sell the account and get the OG email as part of the deal and then change the details on that, which you can probably still change back, then they'll take it back and they've scammed you. And it's basically like a business. There's people making thousands of dollars doing this, and they just sell the same account over and over and over and then take it back. It's like really fucked.
it's so worrisome that this kind of thing can happen, especially because the image that the esports scene gives off is way different. You know?
Yeah, because a lot of the most prominent esports groups have finally broken through. I mean, then you have people like FaZe Clan who are not. Ooh, they might have some members go to jail. they did the whole crypto scam recently.
Let's pretend FaZe Clan isn't a thing, okay?
Yeah, right. So not all the big orgs, but some of the bigger organizations, like 100 Thieves. 100 Thieves is doing things really, really, really well. So they're out there getting big partnerships. They're getting featured in places where esports teams have never been featured before, and that's where people get this idea that the esports scene is like growing incredible and really good. And that's true for some groups, but that whole bottom layer, like you said, it's filled with people that are taking advantage of something that has next to no regulation whatsoever, next to no accountability at all, and a huge amount of interest because everybody wants to, like you said, everybody wants to play video games for a living, but you have to start somewhere. So all the bad actors can just weasel their way in and be like, you can start here with me, and then you're really not building a career, you're just hurting yourself.
And it sucks because there's a lot of gullible people that tend to fall for that.
And they're young too. There's a lot of most of the Fortnite community for esports is like what, 14? A lot of the kids that we're paying were like 13, 14, 15. Sometimes you'll get 17, 18, but like for the most part, they're all underage. They're all just, playing after school, and they're good. I mean, man, they're incredibly talented at the game, but not to a point where they're going to win the World Cup, and not to a point where they're going to be able to break out on their own necessarily, at least not in the short term. So they can't go from 0 to 100. They can't go from playing the game in their free time to having a contract and a salary. Like it just doesn't happen. But these teams say that it can happen, and then they get sucked into it. Like, oh my God, I'm not even in high school yet, and I have a full-time, video game job that pays more than my parents. Like, that's what they're selling. The dream is that, but that's not real.
Okay. So should they, like, when it comes to esports, should esports itself have rules and regulations, like say this team and this person
needs
must
to have a purge. It needs to have a fucking purge. That's what I think it needs. No, you know what? Not just a purge. It needs a fucking intervention at this point. Like, holy shit.
Yeah, well, what do you mean by regulation, though? Because, I mean, there is regulation, but... Yeah.
Oh, there is?
Well, at the top level, that's the thing. So what they have is regulation at a high competitive level, but then the further down you go, no. Like, then it's like a 17-year-old who has a big TikTok social media following is like, I'm going to start a team. And then he makes a Twitter account and gets a bunch of artwork and is like, no, I'm a team. And then a whole bunch of kids want to join. And then they're a team. Like, there's no certifications, there's no registration, there's like hardly anything, unless they want to compete in like really good tournaments, and then there's a little bit, right? Then you kind of do have to register some stuff, but I don't know.
Okay, I guess insult me for trying to start a team. God damn it.
Well, no, I mean, it's possible to do in a reputable way. It's just cutting corners is very easy to do. So it's not like in some industries, when you cut a corner, it's like really hard and you might get caught and it's like a whole big deal. Like you're nervous to cut corners. In esports, cutting corners is the name of the game. There's no corner. It's a circle. There's no corners to cut. You're just constantly not going in the right way. Like it's at the lower rungs of esports, it's really, really screwy right now.
Esports is the flat circle.
Yeah.
The circle is the first platform. You have to jump to the other platforms to actually get somewhere in esports. But yeah, like I was saying, yeah, like insult me for trying to start a fucking team. God damn it!
I'm sure you could. Like it's possible to do, but
I did. It was a flop, but and I moved on from the project like a year later. But
but now imagine if it was a flop, right? But then you were so determined to not have it be a flop that you're like, okay, well, let me just like get these kids to pay me money. Like, okay, well, let me just scam this one guy because I need the money to pay this other guy so I can have a certain amount. Like, you know what I mean? Like, if you didn't just cut corners, you started to like screw people over just to keep it alive. That's unfortunately the situation that a lot of teams are in. They're just screwing people over because they're so far down. They're so far underwater, they don't even know what to do.
Exactly. And the problem is that, again, like you mentioned before, they're young people, so they don't know exactly what avenues they have.
I've talked to team owners that are like 14. Dude, I was a ridiculously stupid person at 14. And I've tried to talk to them. I'm like, okay, you have to like make a business, right? Like you can't have all this money coming in and all this money going out hiring people without having a business, right? Like do you know what taxes are? Like,
and then you get dismissed as a hater.
Yeah. Like, oh yeah, you're just trying to stop my dreams. What? No, I'm trying to make sure you don't get fucking prosecuted. And it's kind of ridiculous. There was one time where the support a creator code, which is Epic Games, you get money every time somebody uses it to buy V-Bucks. They were like, the TikTok scam was that you would take like fake skins that this certain YouTuber had made and then put it on TikTok and say, you can join our team. You can live in this mansion. We buy everyone a super good gaming setup. All you have to do is plug in our code. Look at these awesome skins. Plug in our code and you'll get it. Obviously, you got none of those things. But then they would make tens of thousands of dollars from this. Like one account that what was his name? It was from Valier and whatever. Some guy had made like $40,000 from this scam, or like $30,000 to $40,000 from the support a creator stuff. And I was like, dude, that's $30,000 to $40,000 that are like, is being reported by Epic Games. Like it exists. It's in the system. It's money that exists. Like, what are you doing? Like you can't, I don't know. It blows my mind sometimes how little accountability that kids think exists and how much there is going to be eventually. Even if it's not here now, it's going towards more and more accountability in the space, which is a double-edged sword because sometimes it's going to screw people over, but other times it's going to be amazing and help it be more credible. So I don't know. Sometimes I try to communicate to them, like, do more research, cover your bases. I know it's tedious and you just want to be playing the game, but like if you're going to own a team with a group of people and you're going to be hiring and dispersing money and intaking money, you got to cover your bases.
Yeah, it's a very tough gig. But yeah, essentially, yeah. Every bit of advice, yeah, that operation I give out.